Hey, this is Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing Magic, and Mysticism, here to talk to you more about the occult and the paranormal. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I don't think I've ever talked about before, and that is the transpersonal. So, the title of this video, I guess you can say, would be what is transpersonal trance in healing? Before we get into that, we have to discuss what the term transpersonal means. So the term transpersonal refers to a perspective that goes beyond the individual, goes beyond the personal. It transcends the traditional focus of psychology, outward behavior, the brain, all those types of things. And to truly understand the depth of human experience, we must look beyond conventional psychology and consider transpersonal psychology, which explores states of consciousness, aspects of the psyche that lie beyond the personal self. Now, if we were to look at the forefathers of transpersonal psychology, we would have to look at Jung and then Maslow. Now, Jung, who wrote over, and I'm referring to Carl Jung, who wrote over 50 books, connects with the paranormal and occult through a lot of his books, like On Flying Saucers, Synchronicity and Acausal, Connecting Principle, and Psychology of the Occult. So he was able to kind of get into that no man's land where it's just out of the reach of psychology, and now we're getting into the paranormal and the occult. Now, when we think about trance, most of the time we are talking about, or what might come to mind would be things like meditation and hypnosis. But trance is not limited to meditation or hypnosis. It is, some people say, a state of consciousness, but if we want to think of it that way, it's a state of consciousness that exists between full alertness and sleep. So psychologically, it's kind of like this threshold where the boundaries of the individual self begin to dissolve. Now, throughout history, trance has been a powerful tool used by shamans and spiritual practitioners to connect with the spirit world, heal, and gain wisdom. So what induces these trance states? Well, trance states can be induced in various ways, including fasting, dancing, intimacy, psychedelics, ritual music, or attunement practices. The attunement through which the practices that I do. So we can look at the practices I just mentioned. They're usually either going to be inhibitory or excitatory. So excitatory. So that meaning that it might be a trance that involves lowering energy or enhancing energy. For example, dancing, that's an action. That would be enhancing. Something like meditation would be you're reducing the energy, inhibitory. Now, along with the fasting, dancing, psychedelics, and all that, in chaos magic, they actually have this state that's called gnosis, which is a single-pointed focus used in their magic. They're really focusing on their goal. They're really focusing on their magical intention. Now, if we look at something like therapeutic trance, which is trance for the sake of trance, functions like an update to our mental programs, much like how a computer might update its software. Now, when we go to sleep, that is, I guess in a way, you are shutting down the world and getting into like a very small space where we dream and those sorts of things. So if you've ever woken up after a good night's sleep and you have solved a problem or you feel better about something, all of these programs, in a sense, that you were working with have been updated or worked out so that you are in a better place than you were when you entered sleep. Now, when we enter trance with a specific intention, such as union with a higher reality or maybe a magical outcome, we often experience a what we call dissolution of ego boundaries, allowing us to connect with something beyond the self, something beyond our normal boundaries of who we know as who we are as a person. Now, the transformative power of trance, when we return, some individuals may find that their psyche has expanded, granting them access to new perspectives and insights, kind of like we were talking about with the person who woke up from sleeping. So it could be the result can be like a deeper sense of understanding or healing. For example, past life regressions with hypnosis. Hypnosis is nothing more than a vehicle for trance. Past life regressions can help resolve internal conflicts, can help uncover unresolved emotions or traumas. Or we can talk about psychedelic experiences, such as if you were to take magic mushrooms. One might get some profound insights into their inner world, maybe help address issues not easily accessible through their conscious mind. Now, when I think of that, I think of, if you've ever read any of the books by Carlos Castaneda, psychedelic experiences are talked about in his first two books. First one, Teachings of Don Juan Yaqui, Way of Knowledge. But also the second book. Carlos was seeking power and wisdom through the tutelage of the shaman Don Juan. And another aspect of transformative power of trance would be attuning yourself to a specific energy or consciousness that can bring you wisdom and guidance, which can then be acted upon in your daily life. And what I'm talking about there is if you were to receive an attunement to a god, goddess, spirit. All of this, when that attunement starts to get activated, you go into a type of trance so that you can receive the information and energy from that particular spirit. Now, if you are someone who is not too much into psychedelic experiences or taking psychedelic substances, then this would be something that you might be interested in. And that is holotropic breathing, which is or was developed by Stanislav Grof. He was a psychiatrist who, in his home country, I want to say was Switzerland, I think in the 60s they passed some laws that one could not take LSD or use them for even therapeutic purposes. And that's what he was doing at that time. He was using LSD to enhance his therapy with his clients. In fact, there is a book that I used to have. It's called LSD Psychotherapy by Grof. So anyway, I don't want to get off track. He developed this thing called holotropic breathing. What he noticed was that when he would give his patients LSD for their therapy, if he told them to alter their breathing a little bit, it actually enhanced the effect. So he has a technique that allows individuals to access these altered states of consciousness without the use of substances like LSD. A lot of them revolve around some speeding up of the breathing. He found that when one does that, a faster type of breathing, that one can enter a state that mimics a lot of the effects of the psychedelic experiences, which, just like if you were to take the substance, may lead to like emotional and spiritual revelations. So I've taken classes in something similar to this. It was called conscious connected breathing, which did a lot of the same things. Except the purpose of that, remember, in magic and a lot of these things, your intention is what's important. With conscious connected breathing, it's not so much for you to get any type of internal insight or revelations. It's more about using your breathing in order to release stress, release trauma, all these sorts of things. But if you're not even comfortable with those types of breathing techniques, there is a lot of traditional things that people do to get into trance, and that might be meditation. I was part of a spiritualist church, and part of the spiritualist tradition is accessing guides, masters, and those sorts of things as part of the religion. So we would start by meditation. Meditation is a form of trance. You're turning inward in order to get to a point where you can connect with things outside of yourself. And it wasn't hard. We took some breaths. We turned inward. Through practice, you can kind of get there. And last thing I want to mention is active imagination. Now, Jung actually did this. He had a process where he would interact with his daydreams, during his dream. He's at night. He would interact with characters in these daydreams or night dreams, and this would help him gain knowledge about his unconscious mind. It helps him relate to his unconscious mind, and then when he developed the process through him working with himself and things, then he would kind of work with his clients at that later point. But he's used that to work with people with all sorts of mental health conditions. So in any case, I just wanted to give you all some food for thought revolving around transpersonal ideas, trance, meditation, psychedelics, all those sorts of things. So it's good to be back with y'all. I know I've taken a little bit of a break, but I hope to be on here more often. And I will see you in a future video. Thanks so much. I appreciate the support.